here's something I want to talk about with same game parlays. And this is a new concept that I'm just thinking about. So maybe you guys have. So as I said a couple days ago, I think Philly runs even when they're behind, and Kansas City is going to throw even when they're ahead. That's what this season has shown us. And Casey, since Pacheco he's come back but hasn't been himself, they really have been throwing a lot, even more than usual, right?
Yep.
So, and it's not like if they get up in the fourth quarter, they're going to stop throwing the ball. So I thought, okay, well, and we were talking about this, like, how do we take advantage of it? And it just dawned on me, and it was obvious, is you got to start with Kansas City winning the game. All right. So now if Kansas City wins the game, what's going to happen? In theory, Mahomes is going to keep throwing, even though, if I'm right, even though the parlay math is going to say, oh, no, he's not going to throw because they're winning, right? And I think even if Philly's behind, that they're going to keep running. Now, I will say that has its limits. If somehow they're down 14 or down 17, yeah, they're going to have to throw a lot more. But I think they're down even 10 midway through the third, they keep running. So my thinking was, okay, I can play Kansas City, and I'm not anxious to play Kansas City laying points or anything. So at the time, now it's moving towards pick 'em. Let's just say we played at the money line, right? Okay, on this same game parlay. And then we go over Mahomes completions, right? You know he's going to play a good game. If he throws a lot, I don't want yards because I think he's going underneath a ton. I want completions, all right? And then I want to go Saquon attempts. I don't know if they shut him down or not. I don't think they do, but I'd rather go attempts. And then I had one more piece that I thought was interesting, which was under the total. Because to me, the one risk here is Kansas City getting up by 17 or whatever. Well, in general, if it's a low scoring game, there's, the margins are going to be less. So my thinking is there's real correlation there. So let me ask you this, Fez. Do you agree that if Kansas City wins, then, well, I guess that the Kansas City winning is contingent upon my belief about, or the math of Kansas City passing still went ahead and Philly still running one behind. So obviously, if I'm right about that, the Kansas City's correlated. Do you believe that the under is correlated to there not being a huge lead in the game?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yes, especially in the Super Bowl, because normally I'd be concerned during the regular season if a game got to like 21-3, but I guess the poster child, and kudos to RJ, last series of games, his best bet, I believe, was Philly in the fourth quarter. And that kind of sums up why blowouts go over, right? That the Washington team's going for it 4th and 12 from their own 25. They don't give up, and the team that's ahead doesn't let up. And that lends itself to a whole bunch of scoring in one-sided games oftentimes.
Yeah. So, but in general, if I told you, hey, it's going to be 17 total points at halftime, if you had the bet of over under biggest lead of the game, 14.5, you'd be pretty happy, even if you didn't know the score, right?
If I had under 14.5,
yes. Exactly. So what I'm saying is the one thing I'm trying to protect is the idea of Kansas City getting out to the big lead. Now, the funny thing is, you could say, well, go over or go under the 14.5. They won't let you. I mean, Scott, I don't know what you've seen. It doesn't seem like you can parlay that with anything.
The largest lead you're talking about?
Yeah.
I haven't seen you been able to do that. I just priced your same game parlay, what you just talked about. And I got, Chiefs money line, Barkley over, 22 plus rushing attempts, over 23.5 Patrick Mahomes completions.
Yes.
And the game to go under 48.5.
12-1?
Plus 2,100.
Oh, my, what? 2,100? Wow. I was doing that. Read that one more time.
Chiefs money line.
Okay.
Barkley, 22 plus rushing attempts, so over 21.5 rushing attempts.
Yes.
Mahomes, over 23.5 completions.
Yes.
And under 48.5.
Yeah, okay.
Plus 2,100.
This is DraftKings.
Yeah, because the books are pricing big anti-correlations. They're saying if Kansas City wins, Mahomes is going to get less passing yards and Barkley's not going to get the ball.
Okay, and I think that's the beauty of this, where history tells us that, or at least this year's numbers tell us that's not the case. So
yes, the only concern, like you said, RJ, is like, well, obviously, if Kansas City goes up 21-0, then we're not going to win this.
Gets less likely, yeah.
Yeah, but if Kansas City's and let's face it, I mean, even if the game's like tied, Kansas City, do I want the Eagles in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes to play if it's tied? Of course not. That Kansas City is so adept at winning those games and has so much experience. And so your game script could easily be such that Kansas City doesn't even have the lead until the fourth quarter.
And the funny thing is, this is still with DraftKings having Kansas City -1.5.
Yeah,
right?
minus one. They have right now, I think it's -120 on the money line.
So here's my question that I said I had a concept I've been thinking about, which is, if we moved some of these bets, because 21-1 or whatever, I don't need that. I'd like it, right? I would ladder it up and say, hey, go over 26, go, and get up to 50 or 70-1 and hope, right? But I think what's more interesting, but when they are inversely correlated to some degree, is even let's just assume maybe they're flat. I don't think they're correlated, but they're flat, but they think they're anti-correlated. The book does. I'm thinking, what about moving each of these things to make it easier, specifically with the carries the carries and the completions? But the theory is they're going to move it, the math that says, okay, it is -150 here, but it's going to be +120 here, or I guess it'd be in reverse, +120 here. We're making it easier, so it goes to -120, maybe to -180. Yeah, I'm willing to pay that, right? I'm willing to pay that, but it feels like that it opens up the corridor so much of the idea of like because one of the things I was thinking about is saying, well, I should just take Philly +7.5. Right? If I'm worried about the blowout, the other thing I could do is take Kansas City, pick them, and Philly +7.5 or +10.5. The crazy thing about that was they didn't give me hardly anything for that, which is insane, because like you're locking yourself into like a 7-point corridor in that case. So I'm not even thinking of doing that. But isn't it interesting if we say over 20 completions, over 20 rushes?
That's what I just priced in for you.
All right, and what do we got?
+700.
Yeah, so now that's getting fascinating, right?
Yeah, I love your logic. I just think they're nailing us for too big of a haircut. I'm like, go for the 21,
Well, but
I'm only picking up 2 or 3 on each one of these. And now, I mean, to put it in perspective, if I play 21 of these, I only have to hit 1. Now, if I take a haircut on 2 of my 4 legs, I got to hit 3 out of 21. I say we go for it.
I hear you. But I do think that, and I haven't done the math on this yet, but I'm going to look at the prices of all the different things and think, all right, if it was a vigless line, what would the change be? And see if they change. Because the one thing I can tell you for sure is that where they think the correlation is, which is, or the anti-correlation is in their mind, is with the total, which is very unusual. Like if you just put what I'll do here is I'll let you guys, do the next prop or the next idea you want to talk about. But I'm going to play with it a minute while we're doing it. I'll jump in. But yesterday when I was doing this, the correlation was in a place, or the anti-correlation, where I didn't expect it to be. And I want to kind of get that straight before I say it. So Fez, what are you thinking about thesis wise?